Welcome, folks. I'm Jaby Koay, joined by ACHARA KIRK.
Hi, guys.
We're looking at Marvel's What If Episode 2 breakdown, Easter eggs, and details you missed from new Rockstars. By the way, we've got our own breakdown that we just put out this morning. It is by Sintel, my best friend and a longtime collaborator. I hope you guys watch that and enjoy it. It's nowhere near as the esteemed, pristine quality of new Rockstars, but I'd say it's pretty darn good and fun, and I think you guys will enjoy it. It's a much faster paced thing because I edit like a maniac.
TLDR version.
It's a TLDR version. I'll tone it back for the next episode, I promise. For this one, it's quick. You get to the point. I imagine that this one being 20 minutes long is gonna take its time a little bit more. So I'm very, very excited to see what Eric Voss has to say about What If Episode 2. Thank you, new Rockstars, for allowing us to react to this. Very, very much appreciate it. Y'all, if you wouldn't mind, please vote this video up. Here we go.
Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Eric Voss, and this is a breakdown of Marvel's What If Episode 2, which explores what would happen if T'Challa became Star-Lord, spared us all from Thanos, and left us with the Collector cosplaying as Hela. Those antlers don't belong to you. You don't deserve it. Set in my favorite corner of the MCU, the cosmic toy box of the Guardians of the Galaxy, this episode is filled with Easter eggs and subtle details, so let's break this down frame by frame for everything you missed. And big announcement here, we have a new latest obsession shirt, Cosmic Witness, that you can get at our merch store, newrockstarsmerch.com. This shirt is awesome, but like all of our latest obsessions, limited supply. And when you get
They're really good at the merch.
Option to write in a custom shout out that will appear at the bottom of our Inside Marvel after show.
What if Eric Voss is Captain America?
Directly by getting this shirt at newrockstarsmerch.com. We open on Morag, coordinates M31B J0044 3799 plus 4129 236, the same as those in James Gunn's 2014 film. Coordinates that Gunn has hinted point toward his infamous long-lost hidden Easter egg that he confirmed we at New Rockstars got a big piece of. The Watcher ponders.
Is your destiny determined by your nature?
But what is it?
The nature
I know.
of your world.
Why aren't you telling us?
Getting at the deeper theme of nature versus nurture in this episode.
Yeah.
Both Guardians films explored the idea of family and whether Peter Quill is forever cursed by his biological lineage or capable of redefining himself with a family of his own choosing. This episode ends up making a compelling case for nurture, with formerly scarred characters like Yondu, Thanos, Nebula, and Drax all positively benefiting from the experience of the fresh altruism of T'Challa in their lives. And T'Challa's formerly royal attitude of non-interference, now reshaped by his life as an explorer with all of them. And this episode ends with a dark cautionary tale favoring nurture, with the fear of what would have happened had Peter Quill not been nurtured by his chosen family.
When we first watched this episode, it's so obvious now, but at the time, I didn't really consider the fact that nature versus nurture is such a huge component. I mean, that's sort of an obvious thing through the entire run-through of What If, I think. If the circumstances were slightly different, your whole outcome would be totally different. But I guess it is more emphasized here, and I didn't consider that.
We talked a little bit about it in our discussion. One of the things that I thought as they were talking about that, isn't it in T'Challa's nature to be that noble? To me, it feels very much nature. Like that is just who he is.
The nurture's more in the elements around, that he's nurturing everybody around him, his sphere in a different way.
Yeah.
And it has a very positive, I guess we did talk about it.
Yeah.
And I'm not giving myself enough credit.
Yeah, no.
But it just didn't stick because we watched all three at the same time. He has a positive ripple effect like Jesus in a way where everyone reacts differently or behaves differently as a result of his influence and presence.
This opening scene has a few contrasts between T'Challa's approach and Quill's. T'Challa doesn't have an awesome mixed playlist to dance to. Quill put the gravity trap on the floor, whereas T'Challa holds it in his hand and later repurposes it as a weapon. And of course, there's Korath's reaction.
I'm just a junker, man. I was just checking stuff out. Hey, you know what? There's another name you might know me by.
Star-Lord.
Who? Star-Lord, man. Legendary outlaw.
Versus
I am just an ordinary junker, but there is one name you may know me by.
Star-Lord! I'm a huge fan of your work.
Now, Chadwick Boseman voiced T'Challa here, one of 4 episodes this season that he recorded voices for before he passed away a year ago this month. Jaimon Hansu returns as Korath, and he's having a lot of goofy fun in the role. He says,
Should we be bowing? I feel like we should be bowing. I mean, unless we should be kneeling.
Neither is necessary.
Please.
similar to Bruce Banner's reaction to meeting T'Challa in Infinity War.
Should we bow?
Yeah, he's a king.
What are you doing?
We don't do that here.
Michael Hooker returns to voice Yondu, whose animated form has fewer random straps, and his jacket is a brighter Ravager red than the darker tone of his live-action wardrobe, showing off how he's not as too cool as he was before. Less of an overlord of his crew and more of one of the guys. T'Challa says,
If we still made like the old days, you'd only have half of your teeth.
Yeah, in the film, Yondu had a mouth full of golden teeth, but here you can see all of his teeth are still mostly in place. T'Challa continues.
Besides, wouldn't you rather use it to jumpstart the Kalorians' dying star? Save their system from extinction.
Kalorians! That's a deep cut to the rom-comics of the 80s, where Kalorians were a race of cat-like beings. T'Challa wants to save them because he comes from a panther-oriented culture and he probably has an affinity for all things feline.
Makes sense.
Now, instead of Milano, T'Challa named his ship the Mandela, my favorite detail from this episode. When T'Challa was abducted in the year 1988, Nelson Mandela was still a political prisoner. Mandela's South African dialect of Hosi was what the spoken language of Wakandan was based on for the film.
How many times do you think Eric Voss had to practice saying Hosi? I don't know if he got it right, but it sounded pretty legit.
My South African friend, she says it's Kosa.
Oh, Kosa, yeah.
That's the people, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if she just took out the click for me. I listened to her sing a song for me with all the clicks, and I was just like, dude, I don't even know how you did that. That's amazing.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's really hard. He probably did a bunch of takes on that one.
Hosi was what the spoken language of Wakandan was based on for the film. And Mandela's voice recently cameoed in the MCU, echoing through the cosmos in the Loki finale.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Nice callback, you guys.
20 years earlier in Wakanda, young T'Challa meets with his father T'Chaka, with John Connie returning to voice the role in the Wakandan throne room. And he wears traditional tribal garb over his Black Panther suit. Both of them are dressed as they were in a very brief flashback in Black Panther. Interesting detail here, as T'Chaka first walks up, there are 2 thrones side by side, perhaps for T'Chaka and Queen Ramonda, or for father and son, but later in the wide angle, it's back to just the one throne. Maybe an oversight, or a sign of T'Challa's abdication by leaving Earth behind. The Watcher's voiceover says,
What you call destiny is just an equation. A product of variables.
Yeah, interesting choice of words when you consider the recent What If promo displayed Uatu's pitch using the interface of the TVA.
Follow me. Enter the multiverse of infinite possibilities. Where the stories you thought you knew are nothing like you remember.
No treasure is worth as much as the good that can be done with it.
And describing the multiverse as a math equation mirrors the explanation of He Who Remains, creator of the TVA, in that Loki finale. He had a series of nonlinear integration equations on his chalkboard.
It kind of breaks my brain sometimes to consider the possibility that we are all just living out an equation so great that we couldn't possibly fathom.
I feel like that's kind of beautiful, though. I don't know. I get it.
I'm glad you think it's beautiful, because it makes me mad as hell, because I'm just part of a ping pong effect of the universe. And it's like there's nothing that can be done about it. I'm just one reaction to another reaction to another reaction, and then the next thing after me is another reaction. And it's all just this crazy math equation. It just like hurts.
A part of me wants to believe in free will. Of course, we want to believe that we are the masters of our own destiny and that we can make choices that affect future events and stuff like that. When you really think about, oh, what if it is just a math equation and everything that I am doing right now is just planned out? Yeah, it does hurt. I get it. That's one side. The other side to look at is, oh, maybe, you know, there's this greater plan or something. This is a philosophical debate that could go on forever.
Yeah, so let's not.
Yeah, just know these two are speaking a very similar language, and I will remind you that in our season preview, I predicted a post-credit scene in which He Who Remains hosts the Watcher in his Citadel chamber moments before Loki and Sylvie arrived. The Wakandan border wall has, as it does in the films, a hexagonal grid structure which matches the UNT navigation grid of the universe seen in the Guardians films, Captain Marvel, and Endgame. Later this episode, we will learn that the Wakandans were actually experienced in space travel, meaning some of their tech might have been extraterrestrial influence. Kraglin is voiced by Sean Gunn again, and Taserface, the mutineer in Volume 2, voiced again by Chris Sullivan, explain.
I don't know, all humans look alike to me. The cosmic readings where he was took nearly broke our dial. If there was anything not from that planet on that planet, it's there.
Referring to the meteorite in the prologue of Black Panther that's now the mines of Mount Bashenga. But then, back in the present, 20 years later, the crew hangs out on Contraxia. That's a snow-covered planet that we saw in Guardians Volume 2, but whereas those Ravagers hung out in the scummy street level, these guys kick it in the classy nightclub. Still, throughout the background, you can see the yellow sex spots hanging about. They relive their war stories.
What about the central bank heist of Dawn X4?
Never hurts to hurt a scroll, right?
Yeah, Tarnax 4 is the Skrull home world. First mentioned in the MCU, it might in the live action things be under Kree occupation since the Skrulls were refugees in Captain Marvel. We might visit this place in the Marvel film. Korath says,
Oh, how about when you armed the Ankaran resistance?
Yeah, in the Marvel comics, Ankara is the homeworld of the Slig. It's from a 1979 Fantastic Four comic. And then this reveal.
How exactly did you stop Thanos, the mad titan, from decimating half of the universe? Oh, no.
I'm a big enough man to admit when I'm wrong.
Josh Brolin returns as Thanos, having moved on from being a Malthusian eco-terrorist thanks to T'Challa showing him the light. Now, T'Challa, having grown up in a bubble untarnished by imperialist conflict, instead in a peaceful state of tribes who settle their differences at Warrior Falls and share their resources with each other, might have been that X factor to break through to Thanos' sociopathy.
Right.
And yeah, 20 years after 1988 would be 2008, right as Tony Stark started to become Iron Man, and 4 years before, Thanos would have sent Loki to attack Earth. So this Thanos hasn't even gotten close to his conquest of Earth in his warpath in the Infinity Saga. The bartender, meanwhile, is Drax.
You saved my home world from a Kree invasion. Let us take a picture to send to my wife and daughter.
Not voiced by Dave Bautista, though the producers of the show said that they tried to get in touch with him. But yeah, Drax is referring to his wife Yvette and their daughter Kamaria, the Kylosians killed by Ronan on Thanos' orders, but now another planet saved by T'Challa.
How would they not be able to get a hold of Dave Bautista? I heard somewhere that he doesn't want to come back because of how much damage it does to his body, how taxing it is to his body to have to bulk up like that every time he does the role.
But he doesn't have to bulk up to do a voiceover.
Maybe he didn't know that.
Come on now. Yeah, you gotta give him more credit than that.
I mean, how much is he like the character? Nothing gets over his head.
Nothing goes over my head. My reflexes are too fast.
I'm just messing around.
Nebula appears, Karen Gillan returning to voice her, now unscarred with hardly any cybernetic implants since Thanos must have spent fewer years torturing her, or might not have tortured her at all. T'Challa tells her,
You know he gardens now. You should talk to him. He really has changed.
Referring to Thanos' retirement as a farmer on the garden in Infinity War and Endgame, Nebula tells him about a heist she's planning.
Do I have a job for you? They're called the Embers of Genesis.
Yeah, the music is the same jazzy heist music used in the Ant-Man films.
I was at a wine tasting with cousin Ernesto, which was mainly reds, and you know I don't like reds, man. You know, but there was a rosé that saved the day. It was delightful.
Nebula calls the Embers of Genesis
nutrient-rich cosmic dust from an ancient supernova with the power to terraform entire ecosystems. With 1 ounce, you can heal a dying planet in minutes.
Yeah, the Embers of Genesis aren't specifically in the Marvel comics, but they do seem like the same kind of cosmic particles that the Eternals might have used on ancient Earth to enrich the soil for agriculture.
I was wondering about that, actually. But the Ant-Man music was a very interesting selection. Ant-Man is in no way related to this whatsoever, so it was just to signify the heist sort of attitude in the scene?
Yeah.
Okay.
I like it though.
No, I mean it's just interesting. It's like that song was in Ant-Man, so conceivably that's part of Ant-Man's themes, right? Is that too much of a thought?
Too much thinking, Jaby.
Do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean. I don't know if it's his theme though, because it's not him doing something heroic. You know, like when
movie. I know what you mean, but like it's a theme from just like. You know, Prince Ali is a theme song from Aladdin.
Fabulous. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It would be weird if that just showed up in The Little Mermaid or some other movie.
Well, why not? It's Disney. They own everything.
Ancient Earth to enrich the soil for agriculture. And yeah, this is the kind of reallocation of resources to stave off hunger that Thanos was referring to.
Yeah.
Nebula butt heads here.
I thought you work alone, daughter.
Wait. You mean she's your offspring?
Adopted.
Yeah, a callback to one of my favorite MC running jokes between Thor and Loki.
And he's my brother.
He killed 80 people in 2 days.
He's adopted.
I've never met this man in my life.
He's my brother.
Adopted.
Now, in Thanos' absence, the Collector, Taneleer Chavan, seen in Guardians of the Galaxy and in Infinity War, has emerged instead as the feared tyrant of the galaxy. Which does make sense because the Collector, for a few minutes in MCU history, had both the Power Stone in his possession while the Reality Stone was hidden elsewhere in his vault. And he knew what both of those were. He was very close to being a rival to Thanos, if you think about it. T'Challa and Yondu argue in the Collector. This is the massive Ravager ship that Yondu escaped and destroyed in Guardians Volume 2. Yondu says,
"We steal from the rich and give to the poor, just like that Earthling folk hero of yours, right? Robin Leach."
Robin Hood.
Robin Leach marveled over excessive wealth and lifestyles of the rich and famous. Love that joke. Nebula says,
The Collector's got a famous kink for exotic flora and fauna.
Yeah, reminding us of when the Collector weirdly offered to buy Groot's corpse.
Eric Voss said, if you think about it, he is the person who would be the most dangerous after Thanos. It was only after seeing that episode that idea even made any sense to me. I never considered it. And I think a big reason why I never considered it is because in Endgame, when Thanos took over his area, like he scorched it to the ground, you have that moment where he's like, magnificent, magnificent. He's clapping, and it's just an illusion of Thanos because he did something with the illusion stone or whatever it's called.
The reality
stone, sorry. With that scene and previous instances of seeing him, he never looked like someone who was formidable to me.
Right, yeah, because he came across as someone who was quirky and flamboyant.
Yeah, who had no strength to him.
Yeah, not physical strength.
Yeah, no physical strength. Yeah, exactly. And so it never dawned on me that he could be such a powerful adversary to anybody, to any of the protagonists in the Marvel Universe.
Yeah, sure, but it certainly makes a lot of sense. And I think Sintel touched on that as well. Like, as someone who's collecting stuff from all over the universe, you would come across some tech and cool things that could make you more overpowered.
Over 9,000.
Now, Benicio del Toro said in an interview that Tavon sees himself as a Noah figure, his collection an ark to rebuild after some galaxy-wide destruction. And Groot, as a Flora Colossi who respawns after death, could be made of a tissue rooted in the embers of Genesis. Then on to Nowhere. Tavon has
That still makes sense, though, because Benicio del Toro's job as a good actor is to find how he is the protagonist in his own story.
Exactly.
And so it makes sense that he sees himself almost like a Noah.
Yeah,
you know?
that he's doing good.
Yeah,
collecting things is good.
In his mind, yeah.
Yes.
Black Order running security. So we see Proxima Midnight, Corvus Glaive, Ebony Maw, and Cull Obsidian all returning from Infinity War and Endgame. But Karina greets them, voiced again by Ophelia Lovibond from the movies, and she introduces them to Tavon.
I present to you Tanalir Tavon, the Collector.
Oh, my dearest Nebula, aren't you a sight for sore eye? Forgive me, I couldn't help myself. Oh!
And yes, Benicio del Toro has returned here to voice the character. One of his collections appears to be a giant Wakandan rhinoceros, looking about as animated as it did in the live-action film.
Even clock that.
There's this elaborate chest plate that looks Asgardian in nature, or at least something designed by Eitri. It has these interesting engravings, not too dissimilar from Vandrol's chest plate, or maybe a version of the Asgardian destroyer. In the vault, there is an easy-to-miss container with the giant cocoon from the post-credit scene Thor: The Dark World, which at first seemed like it was gonna be Adam Warlock's cocoon until James Gunn changed it to have a new golden cocoon in the Guardians Volume 2 post-credit scene, and then retcon that first one as an ancient version of the Sovereign's cocoons. They pass Cosmo, the space dog, who growled at Rocket in Guardians Volume 1, but here he wags his tail at T'Challa. Another contains a dark elf. And then, of course, Howard the Duck, with Seth Green returning as the voice. He directs T'Challa to the Embers of Genesis.
Cosmic Flora down the hall. Take a Louie at the Frost Giants, a Hard Ralph at the Cronins. You're gonna see a sign for Elvish literature. Ignore that. Total snooze.
Screw it.
Yeah, I love that scared quack at the end there. But yeah, he mentioned the Frost Giants. Those are Loki's people. Cronins, those are Korg's people. And Elvish literature. Maybe a joke about the long, dramatic Elvish dialogue we all had to sit through in Thor: The Dark World. Howard says,
You know what they say. When you're out of luck, always go duck.
I'm pretty sure no one says that.
Oh, they say it.
Really?
Totally.
Yeah, another little quack in there. It was a little rewording of his line in Guardians Volume 2.
You know what they say. You're out of luck until you've gone duck.
Howard stops for a drink at...
That extra was very extra. God damn.
You love to call out the extras.
Luck until you've gone duck.
Well, I would imagine it's because she's acting opposite of nobody.
Of no one, yeah.
Yeah.
She's
okay, I gotta give her some credit. That's a little bit
yeah.
Tough. Just laugh hysterically at nothing.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, said James Gunn. And so she's just doing what she can there. And forgive me, she's not an extra. She's a, what do you call it, a featured actress?
There we go.
Yeah.
She's an actress.
Yeah.
You're out of luck until you've gone duck.
Howard stops for a drink at this bar that looks a lot like the Mos Eisley Cantina bar from Star Wars, though the bartender is the robot that kind of looked like a Celestial that was in the ACHARA bar serving Valkyrie drinks in Thor Ragnarok, so that bar just might be that setup. And T'Challa runs into this garage, which is filled with spaceships that we've seen before. Front and center is a Commodore, that's a pleasure craft of the Grandmaster Endui Gas from Thor Ragnarok. That's actually Tavon's brother, because they're both elders of the universe. Now to the right of that is another ship from the Grandmaster's garage. That's a green painted cube that Taika Waititi joked that he designed with an intentionally dumb shape. And then to the right of that, closest to us, the Quantum Realm vessel of Hank Pym that he used to rescue Janet Van Dyne. Now this it doesn't really make sense for Tavon to have this because it didn't exist yet. But above that looks like an Avengers Quinjet. Then further on the left is a yellow Star Blaster. That's a fighter piloted by the Nova Corps fleet. And then to the left of that is a green ship with folded wings that looks like another ship from the Grandmaster's garage. Then to the upper right of the Star Blaster is the Necrocraft, piloted by Ronin Sicarian soldiers in Guardians Volume 1. And then another one of these was hijacked by Nebula to kamikaze into Thanos on Titan in Infinity War. Now on the far left, looks like it could be the Milano, though the wing engines are completely different. And then just behind the Star Blaster, looks like it could be an X-Wing from Star Wars, but the S-foils look completely different. Then T'Challa's necklace lights up when he finds a Wakandan spacecraft.
The music.
Yeah, that was the sound of the talking drum. That was part of composer Ludwig Göransson's score for Black Panther. And again, proof that Wakandans were involved in space exploration, which is crazy. Now, the interior of this craft is covered in Wakandan lettering, which I took the time, of course, to try to translate. But I only made out a few words. You understand, wasn't, and then you insane. Then in the cabin as we face the cockpit, it looks like positive, and then on the right side, and negative across the top, and then down the sides, simplify and then on the other side, make shapes. I don't know what this is. But T'Challa finds these mannequins wearing Dora Milaje garb, meaning the Collector must have killed these soldiers and now has their wardrobe on display. And he sees his Baba's recording.
My son, T'Challa, Crown Prince of Wakanda, was abducted from Earth by an alien spacecraft.
Yeah, the music there might sound familiar. That's the mournful ancestral plane track from the Black Panther score.
Oh.
Wow.
Ebony Maw binds T'Challa by using the broken glass, similar to how he repurposed broken material in his fight against Doctor Strange and the others in Infinity War. Siobhan uses a Cronin arm against T'Challa.
Packs quite a wallop, does it not? I hacked it off the carcass of a terribly chatty Cronin.
Terribly chatty Cronin, this guy cut off Korg's arm. Now during this fight, I like how the talking drum picks up pace, just like it did to build up tension during T'Challa's Warrior Falls duel in Black Panther. Tavon's weapons include Captain America's shield, which in 2008 would have been frozen in polar ice, as well as Mjolnir, and then a dagger forged in dark matter taken from the ruler of the Dark Elves, that would have been Malekith's dagger, and then of course the headpiece of Hela, whom Tavon emulates with his gesture.
The only way that that makes sense, if things aren't pushed up ahead in the timeline, is if the Collector is crossing dimensions. Because like he just said, that Captain America was frozen in ice at the time, so how does that make any sense?
What about the butterfly effect? And like, isn't it possible that in this timeline, because things are different, that
I'm sure certainly it's possible that
maybe
things
he
happen
never got
sooner.
Frozen.
Yeah, or that. Yeah, anything is possible. There could be any number of explanations as to why, but assuming that a lot of things happened the same and then there was a divergence in the timeline, the only thing that makes sense is if the Collector has the ability to cross dimensions for some reason, which is conceivable, given that he's the Collector. He's probably collected some shit that allows him to do that.
Oh, that woman had taste. A necrosword, courtesy of the Asgardian goddess of death.
No clue how he would have gotten this or any of this stuff, because Hela is a freaking goddess of death. I don't see how he could have taken it from her. Meanwhile, as Thanos and the others fight in the security, I love this, you can hear a bowling pin sound effect as he knocks him over.
Dude, I didn't hear it. Did you hear it?
The Guardians of the Galaxy music plays.
Yondu, sweet! Now it's a party.
T'Challa and Yondu use the sticky fingers trick on Tavon to steal his gauntlet control. The same maneuver Tony Stark used on Thanos to steal that gauntlet in Endgame. And then on the reveal, we hear this great music. This is more music from the Black Panther score. And one of the prisoners closing in on Tavon is a Pluvian, the same race as Martinex from Stakar Ogord's crew from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. As they leave nowhere, the embers of Genesis that killed the Black Order cause life to spring from that skull, making me wonder if it could reanimate in some form. They return to Wakanda and reunite with the family. Queen Ramonda is wearing the same white robes and headpiece that she wore when she greeted T'Challa on his return in Black Panther, and they all dine a Koye in Thanos talk.
My friend, that sounds an awful lot like genocide.
No, because it's random.
Korath talks with Shuri. Meanwhile, Kraglin says,
"Jump points are the best. They make your face all scrambly, but they're a lot of fun."
Referring to their lightspeed jump sequence in Guardians Volume 2. And the final scene takes us to that Dairy Queen in Missouri, the same one from Guardians Volume 2. But here, adult Peter Quill listens to Space Age Love Song by A Flock of Seagulls. Could be from James Gunn's Awesome Mix Volume 3, since Volumes 1 and 2 mostly stuck to 70s music. Ego says,
My
Peter? Can't spare a little time for dear old Dad?
And his ship is parked out front, all while the Watcher says,
Too bad, this might spell the end of the world.
Bringing us back to that nature versus nurture debate of this episode. Further proof that nurture is so important, because for the Watcher to consider this apocalyptic means that Peter needed his experiences with the Ravagers and the Guardians. He needed to meet them first in order to know how wrong his biological connection to Ego was and be able to fight back against him.
Oh, wow. I didn't even consider that.
Mm-hmm.
Sintel talked about it in his. I forgot that it said, because we watched What If episode 2 weeks ago at this point, right?
Yeah.
And I forgot that the Watcher said that it might spell out the end of the world. I didn't consider the possibility that Peter Quill would join his father on the dark side.
Yeah.
It didn't even dawn on me. For some reason, I completely missed that. And then he said it there. I'm like, oh yeah, that nature versus nurture thing makes sense.
And the closing title card pays tribute to the late Chadwick Boseman, the hero this episode thankfully gave us another adventure with. Support New Rockstars by checking out our merch options at newrockstarsmerch.com. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at EAVoss.
Ah, man. Every time they talk about Chadwick Boseman, it's like my heartstrings are tugged. It's
but it was such a beautiful episode for him as well.
Absolutely.
Because when you think about Chadwick Boseman and everything that he was going through that no one really knew about, apart from, probably his close friends and his family, he embodied everything that T'Challa is.
His legacy to me, the closest thing I can think of is Bruce Lee, in that he came out of nowhere, did all these super hits, and then bounced.
Right.
Because Bruce Lee's career was kind of the same thing. Like, he just exploded onto the scene, did these huge movies, became a global superstar, and then died.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? My dad was telling me, or years ago, because my dad's passed away, when it showed up in the newspapers, he was just like, how is this possible? Like, I just watched Enter the Dragon. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's kind of
has that same effect where you're like, wait, but you're Black Panther, you're T'Challa, we love you. Like, what?
I thought that this was an amazing breakdown because, kudos to Eric Voss and his team at New Rockstars. Sintel is doing his breakdowns all by himself, and it's amazing to me what he can catch just as a one-man operation in terms of the research and whatnot. It's still really cool to see what New Rockstars points out as stuff like, I would have never seen that. Like, unless I went frame by frame. Someone at his team must be going frame by frame with everything that they're watching, not just with the episodes of What If, but they have to be going back to watching the stuff to connect the dots, right?
Yeah.
It's like, how did the rhinoceros thing, like, I would have not... I mean, I guess it makes sense because it's T'Challa's episode as Star-Lord, so naturally there'd be Black Panther references. There's logic there. But okay, for instance, when he's looking at all the ships in the hangar, I'm like, God damn.
I know. I can't even remember what I had for lunch the other day.
But I think the biggest takeaway from all of this is Eric Voss's Captain America. That'd be something.
Yeah. I could get on board with that.
He would definitely be funnier. Just to wrap up the conversation from earlier, I think this nature versus nurture thing is a great thing to explore. And it didn't even dawn on me how important this topic is until this breakdown. I'm like, wow. Because it's something that's kind of passively thrown around in conversation all the time. Like, is it nature or nurture? And then you sort of just move on. And you don't really go into 3-hour debates about it. But because of this, I could feel us kind of slipping into that. Like, whoa, we could really dive into this and break it down even further about nature versus nurture.
Well, yeah, it's fun to do the psychology breakdowns on things like this and on characters and stuff that we know and love, because, when you have a good character and they've been written really, really well, it's easy to kind of break apart the things that made them who they are.
Right.
And so you're able to kind of go, okay, well, that is who they are at the core of their person. Like I was saying about T'Challa, just him being very noble and kind and altruistic. Although maybe some of those qualities were taught to him by his dad and stuff.
But I mean, furthermore, though, it's like if you think about how much content is out there, because we are in an age of just abundant content.
Yeah.
Right? I think Marvel, the MCU is one of those things that so many people have watched collectively.
Mm-hmm.
That DC as well, but I think more so Marvel. So many people have watched this stuff. So a lot of us have this long-running familiarity with these characters. So you really can break it apart and go, look at the nature versus nurture here. And everybody knows what you're talking about because we've all been watching this shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's a different experience. As far as I can tell, it's one of the only things that so many people of all kinds of walks of life have watched.
There is no doubt that Marvel and the MCU has left a massive imprint on pop culture.
Right. So to what you're saying, I think that is really, really spectacular that you get to... I'm appreciating What If so much more now as the longer this conversation goes on, more than I did initially. Because initially I was like, that's cool. But now it's like, whoa, like this is insane to really consider, you know?
Yeah, because it really makes you think, right? What if Thanos was affected by someone like T'Challa and was made to see, like, actually, you don't have to kill half the universe's population.
It's efficient.
It's efficient, yeah, but also, what if you could just provide more resources? Yeah, and you know, like these are the arguments that we had amongst friends as well. Like,
true, yeah.
No, what if you just have more?
But I'm you know, putting my vote in for Eric Voss's Captain America.